بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير خلق أجمعين. Thank you very much, my friend Sercan, for this introduction, for this presentation. I will talk today about the main books of the Quranic studies and their manuscripts to the 1st century Hijri, 10th AD. I can give a summary of my presentation. I will talk about the history of the term ʿulūm Qur'an or Quranic studies, definition of the term, Shafi'i definition of the modern scholars, the reason for the emergence of these studies at a very early time, methods of authorship in the books of Quranic studies. We have 3 methods, and I will finish with some important manuscripts models of Quranic studies. So in the beginning, the history of the term ʿulūm Qur'an or Quranic studies, we can say that we don't have this term ʿulūm Qur'an in the beginning of the first century Hijri and the second, until the beginning of the 3rd century, when Imam Shafi'i, he talked about this term ʿulūm Qur'an in plural form, that a lot of scholars, they talk about ilm al-Qur'an or ilm tanzil or ʿulūm tanzil. They don't talk about this term of ʿulūm Qur'an. And if we, but we can observe that Shafi'i, he didn't talk about ʿulūm Qur'an in his books, because Shafi'i, we know that as founder of a lot of Islamic sciences or Islamic studies, he didn't talk about ʿulūm Qur'an in his books. For example, Risala, when he talk about usul fiqh and ilm al-hadith. But we found this annotation in his long dialogue with Khalifa Rashid, when Khalifa Rashid, he asked him about his knowledge about ilm kitab or al-Qur'an al-Karim. Then Shafi'i said as answer, أي علم تريد يا أمير المؤمنين؟ علم تأويله أم علم تنزيله؟ أم مكيه أم مدنيه أم ليليه أم نهاريه أم سفريه أم حضريه أم هجريه? I think this word هجريه, it's not correct. It's in a تصحيف in the books. It's I thought it's عجميه أو أعجميه أم عربيه أم إنسيه أم وحشيه أم تبيين وضعه أم تسويره بصورته. فقال له رشيد answers him لقد ادعيت من علوم القرآن أمرا عظيما. So from this talking about of Imam Shafi'i about علوم القرآن, he gave him a lot of types of علوم القرآن. He talked about علم تأويل, interpretation. They talk about ilm al-tanzil, or revelation, or place of revelation, Mecca or Medina, timing of the revelation, night or days, which situation the Prophet get this revelation, in traveling or in staying a normal stay. Hajarihi, I don't know. It's, as I told in the beginning, I thought that it's عجميه أو عجميه أم عربيه, and we know that in Quran we have a lot of words coming from other languages like Syriania or other languages used in this time. إنسيه أم وحشيه, also talk about the words, or وحشيه, I mean it's some mysterious words that it's not clear for normal Arabs. And أم تبين وضعه أم تسويره بصورة. أم تبين وضعه is mean to define or determine the place of the verses in the Quran, the beginning of the verses and the verse and the end of the verse, and also the arrangement of the verses and the end of the surah, when the surah start and finish. فقال له الرشيد لقد ادعيت من علوم القرآن أمرا عظيما. This answer of Rashid, it means that he told him that you said great things about علوم القرآن or about the types of Quranic studies. So if you want to make a comparison between this Shafi'i's definition of علوم Qur'an and the late definition of علوم Qur'an in كتاب الزركشي البرهان في علوم القرآن, or the book of الإتقان للسيوطي. So we will not find a lot of difference between this definition and the definition of other scholars, the late scholars. But the only one difference we find that other scholars come in late. They talk about a lot of types of علوم Quran. They talk about tafsir, like the first type of Quranic studies, and they expanded on the types of Quranic studies, which were more than 50 types. And Suyuti, in his book, Al-Itqan fi Ulum al-Quran, he talks about more than 80 types of Ulum al-Quran. So now we can talk about the reason for the emergence of these studies at a very early time. We observe that these types of Ulum Quran, of Quranic studies, started at very early time in the first century Hijri, when we talk about al-Qira'at, Asbab al-Nuzul, al-Nasikh al-Mansukh, and lots of types of Ulum Quran. It starts very early. What the reasons for this emergence? We can talk about five reasons. First one, the value of the Quranic text as central and liturgical or worship text in the Islamic religion. The second one, the Prophet's concern for transcribing the Quran, and he didn't concern to transcribe the Hadith. The third reason, the companions took care of collecting the Quran in the book immediately after the death of the messenger. The first one, it is forbidden to be preoccupied with anything other than the Quran. And we know the hadith who talks about that we have not write the hadith or in order to not don't care of the Quran. The fifth reason is Muslims fear to lose or distort the Quran after this the place of the Islam extended. Okay, so after the 4th century, we find some books they talk about علوم القرآن, like al-Burhan fi علوم القرآن al-Hufi, and also Ibn Jawzi, he has a book about علوم القرآن. But we find that the meaning of علوم القرآن in this book is not the same meaning the Shafi'i talk about, or Zakashi or Asyuti mentioned in their book after that. So we cannot understand that Al-Hufi, he talk about a lot of types of علوم Quran in this book, because this he has he don't mean with the word of Qur'an the lot of types of Qur'an, but he mean only one type. It is an interpretation or explanation of the Qur'an. That's why you can find this Qur'an. It is kind of tafsir al-Qur'an, but not he talk or he give a lot of information about a lot of other types of al-Qur'an. Now we can talk about why I choose this period from the first century Hijri until the 4th century Hijri, because I think that it is an important age of Quranic studies, and it is foundational era open which all other era were built, and it represents the true picture of the reality of writing books in the early days of Islam. And its first feature in terms of maturity, awareness, depth on, and perception, I mean the perception of those studies by the Muslims. If we try to know what the methods these authors in this first 4th centuries of Islam era, what the methods these authors use in these books of Quranic studies or books of ʿulūm Qur'an, you can find 4 or 5 methods, but I will talk only about 3 methods like examples. The first method is tabulating hadith and listed them with chain of transmission. And before I talk about these 3 methods, I can give some observation about the authorship in this time. From the 1st century until the 3rd or 4th century, we find the authorship, it's still not very developed, because we cannot find the author start his book with introduction, proper introduction, with a lot of main point, like the main his conception about the topic of the books, or what his method, or a lot of things. We can say that the first scholar who talk about, or he'll write this introduction in normal methodology or developed methodology is Ibn Qutayba, صاحب أدب الكاتب, صاحب مشكل الحديث. Ibn Qutayba, he died in 276 Hijri, so in the end of the 3rd century Hijri. So he's maybe the first one who has this introduction. Even al-Jahid, who is the main and famous writer, he don't have proper introduction in his books. Okay, so all books of this time, they don't have introduction. So, for example, we can talk about أبي عبيد القاسم بن سلام الهروي المتوفى سنة 224 في كتابه فضائل القرآن. So, Abu Ubaid al-Qasim ibn Salam is not only literature, he's also muhaddith. So all his books, he just give a hadith akhbar with the chain of transmission, with asanid. Akhbar without any annotation or commentary. So, and also he made his book like Muwatta Imam Malik. He gave only the nouns or the title of the chapters without any commentary or annotation. We have also, with the same method, Ibn Durais in his book فضائل القرآن وما أنزل من القرآن بمكة وما أنزل بالمدينة. And also, I forgot to talk about this edition. It's editing of Dr. Marwan Atiyah and Dal Bashair edition. And he published it in 1995. فضائل القرآن ابن دريس, also edition of غزوة بدير, دار الفكر دمشق, 1987. For the second method I want to talk about is the method of explaining the verses without mentioning the hadith. So we find Qatada ibn Di'ama, ibn Qatada al-Sadusi, is ancient scholar. He is before Abi Ubaid Qasim bin Salam, but he talked about Nasikh wal-Mansukh in his kitab al-Nasikh wal-Mansukh without any hadith, without giving a hadith, any akhbar from the companions or from the Prophet. And this method also, it's strange somehow because it's very near to it's very near to this time of the Prophet, but he gave his opinion about Nasikh and Mansukh, and he talked about al-ayat, who has this Nasikh and Mansukh without give any hadith with transmission chain. The third method is grammatically method, or find the scholars of Arabic grammar like al-Farra, like al-Akhfash al-Awsat, like al-Nahas, that they have lots of books and they give grammatically explaining for the ayat, for the verses. And they talk about the grammar, about the morphology of the lot of words in the Qur'an. And this is also another method. It's different. They make focus only about the grammar and syntax of the verses. Now I want to give you some examples of the manuscripts, some models of manuscripts of Quranic studies. I don't know if it's clear or not. This example from Kitab Ma'ani al-Qur'an lil-Akhfash al-Awsat. This is the last, last page. It's colophon. We talk here. عرضنا هذا الكتاب من أوله إلى آخره على جعفر. هذه المعارضة. But the end of the kitab is هنا آخر كتاب الأخفش في معاني القرآن. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا دائما كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه وصلى الله على محمد. So this colophon of معاني القرآن الأخفش الأوسط. أخفش الأوسط he died in 215 Hijri, 830 AD. This copy, it's from the 6th century. It's copied in 511 Hijri. It's from Maktabat al-Radawiyya Library in Mashhad. So this copy, it's I thought that it's oldest copy we have of Ma'ani al-Qur'an, and the edition of Ma'ani al-Qur'an, they don't have a lot of old edition, old copies of Ma'ani al-Qur'an, and they just used some modern copies that don't have a big value, like this copy. And also, if you want to observe some ex libris, some annotation, you can find there معارضة. عرضنا هذا الكتاب معارضة أو المقابلة. And you can find also the sanad of this معارضة. Another example. This example from حقائق التأويل في متشابه التنزيل للشريف الرضا. الشريف الرضا, he died in 406 Hijri, 1015 AD. And this copy, it's finished on Friday, 21st of Rajab, 533 Hijri. This copy also is from Radawiya Library in Mashhad in Iran. This page is the first page in the manuscript. الجزء الخامس من كتاب حقائق التأويل في متشابه التنزيل. So this fifth volume or fifth part. We cannot talk about the volumes in the manuscripts because just it's mean only small parts. And we find also the name of the author, and also we find some ex libris like al-Waqf statement, and some other writing.
Last 5 minutes.
Another example from the same book. It is colophon of this book. ووقع الفراغ منه في يوم الجمعة 21 من شهر الله. I don't know this. الأصب أو من سنة 33 و500. So also this is all the copy of كتاب حقائق التأويل في متشابه التنزيل الشريف. This maybe last example. It's colophon from the كتاب العرائس والتيجان في قصص الأنبياء وقصص الأنبياء في القرآن للثعلبي. It's also he died in 427 Hijri, 1035 Miladi. This copy is copied in 657. It's also an old copy. And al-Tha'labi is one of the first scholars who talk about Qasas al-Anbiya in special book. A lot of Qasas al-Anbiya, or the story of the prophets, they talk about it in the Kutub Tafsir in general. But to write special book for the Qasas al-Anbiya, it's maybe Tha'labi, it's the first one. So to conclude, that we can talk about that we don't have any big difference between the meaning or the definition of al-Qur'an in the first 4th centuries and in the end of we can talk about in the 9th century with the al-Itqan fi al-Qur'an by Suyuti. And we have a lot of editions of books of al-Qur'an, but they don't use a lot of all these copies of manuscript that they can give good and value edition for this Quranic studies. Thank you.